We have been hearing about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers all off season long, but now the Steelers owner made it sound like it's a done deal. We'll discuss on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Luke Braun, the brain himself. On today's episode, we're going to talk about all of this rule news coming out of the NFL meetings. We're going to talk about Micah Parsons going at Jerry Jones on Twitter about his contract. But we'll start with a story that we've started with quite a bit on this program, and that's Aaron Rodgers to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I've been doing it too.
Yeah, I know.
On my show.
Yep, absolutely. He is the dominant story, and that's exactly how he likes it. But I do want to thank you guys for making Locked On NFL your first listen and being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Luke, we're expecting Aaron Rodgers to go to Pittsburgh. He's throwing passes with DK Metcalf, and everybody's wondering when that's going to happen. And now, Art Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has come out and said, quote, "I would say it was a good sign that he wanted to do that, coming to the visit that they had." Rooney said he didn't envision it taking this long, said they weren't going to wait forever, but a little while longer. And ultimately, it seems like that's what it's going to be. Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, we've talked about this fit, but I have said all along, I think this is a great fit, and I think the Steelers are a playoff team with Aaron Rodgers. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm going to go fringe play. I don't know if he quite has playoff football left in him, but we'll find out. And if he does, the Steelers are a place that can facilitate that. Yeah, it's made a lot of sense. And if you know how to read media tea leaves, which I had to do a little bit, it's been a done deal for a while.
Yeah. Well, the question becomes then, why are they waiting so long to announce what everyone knows is going to happen? And my guy, Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers, kind of touched on what that might be about.
We've known that the options for him really are the Steelers retire or don't sign with the team until maybe training camp or the start of the season, wait for somebody else to get injured, something like that. The fact that it's DK Metcalf, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to read into that it seems pretty likely that he's going to be joining the Steelers.
Yeah, same here. I really think that this is just another sign that this is kind of in the works, and they're just waiting to announce it, or he's waiting to announce it for whatever reason he so chooses. But looking at that seems like a very telltale sign. Now, Alan, one thing that was proposed to me on yesterday's show that I actually kind of wanted to get your way in on. One of our listeners called in and asked if I thought that the lack of an announcement, if there was an underground agreement between the Steelers and Rodgers that there is a deal signed, but they are just refusing to announce it because they want to leave the rest of the NFL guessing going into the NFL draft, and that maybe this. And so I was like, look, I don't think that this is that convoluted. I don't think the Steelers are being that crafty. However, I do think Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin are sitting there saying, yeah, what are we going to do, guys? What do you think we're going to do? You think we're going to draft Jackson Dart? Go ahead, think that.
Okay, Luke, I'll say this. Maybe you can explain to me like I'm 5 why the Steelers making the rest of the league think they might take Jackson Dart at pick like 2021. Why is that a mastermind approach here? How does that benefit the Steelers? Usually it's the other way around. You don't want people, unless you're at the very top of the draft, like the Titans. It makes sense for the Titans to make the rest of the NFL think we want a quarterback, because then maybe you can get a better trade package. But outside of that, it would be the other way of, hey, we don't want to take a quarterback, so don't take our quarterback, so the quarterback we like falls to us. I am having a hard time figuring out how the Steelers are pulling the rug over the NFL by making people think they like Jackson Dart when you would be overdrafting him at 20 anyways.
For sure. Well, think about it this way. For one, what's the cost of waiting till after the draft to sign Aaron Rodgers? Kind of nothing, right?
Nothing.
Happens today, happens in a month. Who cares,
Doesn't
right?
matter.
As long as it's before like OTAs. So it's free.
If they know, as long as they know that he's coming. If you go,
as long as it's confirmed, right? Yeah. If you wait and then you lose out,
he's coming. Yeah. Which I don't know.
Which I think we do.
Aaron Rodgers, but fair enough.
So think of it this way: you're sitting at, what are they, 21? You're sitting there at 21. And there's a guy you really want to fall to you, and you've made all this steam. You've gone through, you've told Ian Rappaport to lie on NFL Network. You got Schefter in on it. You got everybody to say that they're actually gonna draft Jackson Dart. And, if he gets to 21, they're going to draft Jackson Dart. They're going to have him learn behind Aaron Rodgers, and they feel great about this. And that's going to be the rumor. But there's actually another player you really want. You're sitting there at 20, and then somebody who does want Jackson Dart goes, oh my God, if we want him, we got to get him now. Trades up above you to get Jackson Dart, pushing that guy down the board. That's the idea. Will that happen? No one's going to believe you about that on Jackson Dart. But it's free.
How could there be a player valuable enough at pick number 20 to run this kind of long con? And also,
how valuable does he have to be? It's free. It's free real estate.
With the nature of the draft,
could help.
How could you even know that the player, I know that this player is, so we need to get the team in front of us.
How could you know that he's not?
I know, but it seems like the Steelers are like, we're playing the league, when it's like, in reality,
it's like the smallest potato thing. Yeah, it's like a 5-cent scam. You
can ever imagine that probably won't help them that much in the long run. You know what I mean? So
no,
I guess you're right, but any advantage you can create, these psycho competitors are going to create, right?
That's the thing. And it's free. That's the deal. There's no cost. So it's a 5-cent scam. You come out a nickel richer than you were before. I guess that's worth your time.
I love that comparison. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. But ultimately, I think that Jackson Dart and Aaron Rodgers together on the Steelers would be incredible. I think Jackson Dart
that would be
great to learn from Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe he could learn how to play quarterback. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's got natural ability. He's got a great arm. That's why people like him. But the Ole Miss offense is Mickey Mouse, and you don't know whether he can really play quarterback in the NFL and do real NFL quarterback things.
We all learned the lesson from Matt Corral. Never trust a Lane Kiffin quarterback.
Yes, you're not wrong about that as a man who picked Matt Corral in the first round of the 2022 Locked On NFL mock draft. I know how wrong.
We don't need to talk about what we
was.
all did in the 2022 NFL mock draft.
Well, surprisingly, Luke, the Titans did something dumber than what I did in the 2022 NFL draft. So big shocker there. But regardless, I think Jackson Dart would make sense. And I guess I would be disappointed if the Steelers were just faking it with Jackson Dart. If they want to trade down a little bit or something and still get him, it just makes so much sense to pair Dart with Rodgers. I just think that's perfect.
Yeah, it would be a believable thing, but it's just I don't know who you're pranking here. Who's that desperate about Jackson Dart? But maybe there's a team. I don't know, man. Dude, Paxton Lynch went in the first round. Feels like the same thing, so who knows?
Yep, there absolutely will be. But we're also talking about a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that took Kenny Pickett in the first round. So who knows what they could really do. And
similar QB landscape where it all sucks so bad that everyone's like, I guess I'll get that guy. I
guess I'll do this. Yeah. But hey, that's where they're at right now. But basically what we're telling you is expect Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers if you were uncertain whatsoever. But with that being said,
somehow we're still uncertain.
Something that's still very uncertain is Micah Parsons' status with the Cowboys. And now Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones are going at it in public. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Look, college basketball tournament coming to a close, losing out on the opportunities to go watch your favorite team live, feel the energy of that crowd, witness the unforgettable moments. There is nothing like experiencing a big game in person. And the best way to get tickets to those big games is Gametime, because Gametime makes getting tickets not stressful. It's just a very simple, peaceful process. Gametime makes sure that you can get last-minute tickets at unbeatable prices with their Gametime Picks feature that brings the best value directly to you. Also, you get a panoramic view from your seat. You get no surprise fees at checkout and the Gametime lowest price guarantee. where Game Time has the lowest price, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. Make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Luke, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh connection, the owner's comments, and why it's not just us, but a lot of people out there think this is a done deal for the Steelers, just a formality. But something that is not a done deal yet is Micah Parsons' deal with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's something that my guys from Locked On Cowboys talked about recently, and the situation with the agent is definitely coming to the head.
I think what's going on is that Jerry, Steven, and Micah are having conversations about Micah's contract. I don't know if the agent has always been involved in these negotiations. I think the agent probably feels a certain way about that situation and is leveraging their media contacts to kind of delegitimize the process or to imply that it's not really a process without the agent. So I think that's why we're hearing a lot of conflicting stuff, is because we're hearing the Cowboys media proxies, talking one way, and then the agent's media proxies speaking another way. But ultimately, I think based on what Steven said, which is confirming that they have been meeting with Micah, and what we've heard from Micah's relatives and from Micah directly and from other folks, is that it does sound like the Cowboys have made a couple different offers that have been acceptable-ish to the Parsons camp. They're still kind of hammering out all the details. Obviously, otherwise this deal would be done. But it doesn't sound like there's any acrimony or any kind of, roadblocks with this deal, which it feels like, there's definitely been some implication that, it's not getting done. It's not getting done. That doesn't sound like it's the case at all. It sounds like all parties, except for maybe the agent, are involved and are having conversations about his contract.
Well, if you wanted some acrimony, buddy, then you got it, because Jerry Jones at league meetings went out of his way to say that he has been having conversations with Micah Parsons directly. And during those comments, he said that the agent, quote, "The agent is not a concern here. I don't know his name." Well, Micah Parsons' agent is Dave Mulligetta, one of the most well-respected and well-known agents. Like, a casual NFL fan might know David Mulligetta's name because he is such a well-known agent. And to that, Micah Parsons retweeted that video and said, "David is the best," talking about his agent. "I will not be doing any deal without Dave Mulligetta involved. Like anyone with good sense, I hired experts for a reason. There is no one I trust more when it comes to negotiating contracts than David. There will be no backdoors in this contract negotiation." Well, if there were good vibes behind the scenes and they were working towards, and the camps were, well, that is gone now, because Micah Parsons has taken a blowtorch to what the Cowboys thought were good negotiations.
Anytime you have a player like Parsons, you really want to extend, superstar, anchor your defense, and you just blow it because of other stuff, I immediately am like, oh, you're just not a serious organization. Put it aside and get a freaking deal done. It is very clear what the football decision is here. To extend Micah Parsons, he's worth the money. And when it gets personal like that, to me, that's just a failure on all sides.
Yes.
And maybe it could be better for Micah Parsons to not re-sign, to hit free agency someday. Maybe there's more money in that for him. But if that's not what he wants, and the Cowboys can't facilitate that situation into an extension, you deserve to lose him. I've been going hard at Jerry Jones the last couple of weeks on this show, and I'm going to keep going hard at Jerry Jones. He is ruining the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is ruining the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe I'm late to that. Maybe there are Cowboys fans that say he's been ruining them for the last 20 years since they haven't made the NFC Championship. Sure, fair enough. But right now, he is directly, you want to talk about a blowtorch. He is blowtorching the Dallas Cowboys. And the best thing for the Dallas Cowboys right now would be to take a blowtorch, or maybe just some regular torches, and run him out of town.
Yeah, listen, I think it's crazy. Some other quotes, like every time I see a new quote from Jerry Jones from the league meetings, I'm just like blown away. So he said that, I would rather pay more and get it right. Talking about the contract, like why he doesn't pay guys and why it takes so long. That is a paradox. You are getting it wrong by paying more. That's like saying,
Is that like a contract structure thing? Is that like we rather pay more but have like the more years on it maybe that we wanted, or but what?
It would be like getting a worse deal at a car delership and saying like, yeah, well, I paid more.
Told my landlord to raise my rent because I have that kind of grind set.
You ended up with a 12-year loan on Kia Sportage, no matter when you did it. Like paying more, you didn't do anything. Honestly, and with the Cowboys, they make it harder on themselves. We saw this with the Bengals, and people say salary cap is fake. No, stupid organizations are real, though. That's the
cash
thing.
Spending is a real thing, but only for some teams. And if you're one of those teams, your owner needs to be, exposed.
And look at the contracts for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the wasted opportunity to handle the salary cap that the Bengals had there, where they could have given themselves way more room this year to improve that team, but they purposefully did not do it. And the Cowboys are purposefully waiting to pay these contracts, which are harming their, the Cowboys draft pretty well. The Cowboys aren't a team that just has busts all over the roster and are terrible at drafting. The Cowboys have some pretty good players. They have Micah. They have CeeDee. They have Dak. Dak is a good NFL quarterback. Internet brain has caused people to say you're trash or you're treasure. There is no in between. Either you're elite or you're terrible. There is no in between. And Dak is a perfect example of a really good quarterback. Jalen Hurts is an example of a really good quarterback that isn't elite, but is still a good quarterback you want on your team. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes have just totally ruined the conversation around how to build a championship team.
Yeah, there's never going to be room for nuance when you can hear everybody's thoughts on everything.
Team. Exactly. There is no, but I don't care. I'm going to have some. And the Cowboys could be a really good competitive team. And Jerry Jones wants that more than anyone. But it's Jerry Jones who is preventing them from doing it for some ungodly reason. Just manage your contracts better, and you could be a great team.
There's one thing Jerry Jones can do to save the Dallas Cowboys. Retire and go play golf. You'd love it. It'd be easy. You don't have to do this stress anymore. Let your kid take over. I saw that big monologue you did on TV. You wanted to work with your kids. Let your kid take over. You worked with them.
That was great. Yeah.
All right. Go play golf. Go shoot your age.
He was as good of an owner as he is an actor, apparently. Then it would be fine. It was on Yellowstone or something like that. But it was a great scene with Jerry Jones. It really was great. But ultimately, it's just disappointing because like the New York Knicks or the Los Angeles Lakers or the Yankees or the Dodgers, the sport is better and more fun when the Cowboys are relevant, and they're so boring. And it's like they've done it to themselves. They're not terrible. And that's what makes it more frustrating is they're so close to being just a consistent good team. Why can't they be like the Ravens? They have the money, they have the resources, they have the cash spend, they have the facilities, they have no state income taxes, they have every advantage they could possibly have with the Dallas Cowboys, and still somehow their own decisions are what's ruining them from being who they should be.
It's ego. That's all it is.
Yes,
You're looking at a situation. You don't want to do this because there's people you don't like. If you just sat down at the simulator and said, what is Micah Parsons gonna if you did this Madden style, right? Here's my contract offer. Do you take it? And there was no interpersonal to it at all. If you could just do that super dry and blank, this thing would get done in 10 seconds. But because you don't like that guy, you're going to ruin your football team. I do not respect you, you petulant child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that Jerry Jones is trying to portray Mulugeta as someone, unimportant, blah, 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 blah. But really, he's just making himself look like the one who should be disrespected, not the agent.
No. You know who's really getting disrespected? Cowboys fans. Cowboys fans deserve better, and you should be up in arms.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that being said, such a good topic. We didn't hit Brock Purdy. We'll get to that now. The 49ers got a decision to make. It sounds like they're going to make that decision, but man, some of the comments that we heard from the 49ers owner, Jed York, I don't know how they pay Brock Purdy what they're going to pay him. All right, Luke, so the 49ers are in a weird spot. They're bleeding talent. They have to pay a quarterback who everybody can clearly see is just a decent quarterback, not a good, I wouldn't even call him, I don't even think Brock Purdy is a second tier. I don't think he's with Dak Prescott and Baker Mayfield and, Jalen Hurts and whatever, group you want to put together there. I think that Brock Purdy is more in the Sam Darnold third tier, like the Derek Carr, Sam Darnold third tier. Maybe your thoughts about Brock Purdy are different, but they're in a tough spot right now with what they need to do with Brock Purdy. And it sounds like, to me, the owner is maybe not so certain. He said, I don't think we're that far apart. I think we can sit down and get something done whenever he's ready. We're ready. But he also said, I think he is a top 10 quarterback. I think he's great, especially when you combine him with Kyle and you combine him with what we have. He's a heck of a quarterback. Well, I'm sorry.
What you have, or do you have that?
Right. There's a lot of good quarterbacks out there that could look good with the support system in San Francisco. And now that support system is significantly damaged. So if you're saying that Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback with what we have around him and you don't have that around him anymore, then he's not a top 10 quarterback, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a like, oh my God, he admitted here where he kind of admits
it's
that, like,
compliment.
We're letting people go to pay him. Yeah. And it is like an internally flawed logic of, well, we're letting guys go to pay this guy that we think is good because of all the guys we're letting go. Like, wait, what happened? But for me, Brock Purdy, I think is one of those guys that you need nuance to evaluate. Like, you must have nuance. You cannot do the trash or treasure thing with him, and people have, and they've all argued till they're blue in the face. Look, I think he's a little more accurate than he gets credit for, but he's not the most accurate guy in the league. I think he's a much better improviser than he gets credit for. I think that's kind of the point of Brock Purdy, where he can make sure that he gets the ball in the hands of a playmaker no matter what is going on. That is a really valuable talent as long as you have those playmakers and, enough stuff around him where that kind of offense doesn't need to throw up 50 points. But you're never going to have that. So with a big exodus on defense and all this stuff, like, it's very clear the 49ers are going to take a step back to pay Brock Purdy. And I don't know how they build that again, short of just like nail a couple drafts, easy peasy. And so I don't know if that's the right move for them. For me, the hot take, I think I might have said it on this show or my show, or I've said it on something. The hot take I had going into the season was that they should let Purdy walk and sign Sam Darnold. That would be better for them, even though he was a backup for him last year. It's a little awkward. Just say, cool, thanks for fixing him, Minnesota, and bring him back. But now Sam Darnold goes to an NFC West rival, and guess what? I foresee watching a Seahawks 49ers game and saying, well, the dude in green was the better quarterback.
The better quarterback. Yeah, well, what's funny about that is I saw recently our guys over at Locked On 49ers, I thought one of them, whether it was Peacock or Croc, mentioned that, paying Brock Purdy around the Sam Darnold range makes a lot more sense than maybe like what we've seen Trevor Lawrence.
Not the Jordan Love range.
Something like that. Right.
Although Jordan Love and Brock Purdy being the exact same quarterback is a take that Peter Bukowski hates that I've said a lot. So we're just going to kind of keep rolling with that one.
Yeah, I think Jordan Love has a little more natural talent, but isn't as smart of a decision maker. So that's how I would parse that and balance that out. But I don't think it's crazy that we look back here in about 2 or 3 years and be like, man, I cannot believe the Packers paid Jordan Love after one season. But that's a conversation.
I would say that when they signed him.
Yes, correct. You weren't wrong. You were early, Luke. But
no,
not the only
I got it. They had to. They had no choice. But yeah, like you're gonna look back and be like, feels. Maybe that was weird. Dude, unless they make a playoff run better than they have in the last couple.
Take it from me. If you're the Titans and you just went through a season and a half or 2 seasons of Wash Tannehill, who can't get a job, and then a season and a half of Will Levis, when you have a guy like Dak or Purdy or Jordan Love or Sam Darnold or whatever, it's like, yeah, we can all see that those guys are clearly trailers, not tractors, but it can be so much worse. And if you get just a little bit worse than those guys, your season is ruined and there's nothing you can do and your team won't be as good as they should be. Like, you could have a really good team, but if your quarterback is below a certain level, like, there is nothing you can do and you're going to lose your job, and all the good picks that you made and good moves that you made are going to look dumb. Like, you're going to get fired for signing Calvin Ridley as a 1,000-yard receiver and Tony Pollard as a 1,000-yard rusher. Why? Because you went with a quarterback who wasn't good enough. Like it ruins everything that you do.
It's all tied,
so I think that's a big factor here. But I'll tell you, Luke, we aren't the only people skeptical of Brock Purdy. My guy Crocker from Locked On 49ers explained, and it's a long explanation, but he gave a great explanation of his concern.
I got to make it clear. I like Purdy. And the question is just how much, right? And I think when he's had all of his guys or most of the guys, he's done a terrific job. Now, the biggest argument throughout that time was, well, there are a lot of quarterbacks that would be good in that situation. And some people wanted to, point to guys like C.J. Beathard or Nick Mullins. And it's like, well, we're not talking about backups or third-string quarterbacks or journeyman quarterbacks. We're talking about starting NFL quarterbacks. If you have to have a starting NFL quarterback and he's worth any kind of a damn, how would he do in that situation? And I think what we saw from even like Sam Darnold this year, hey, man, you put a quarterback in a terrific situation like that, he could play some football and you can win 14 games. Now, they didn't go to the Super Bowl like the 49ers did, but it just went to show you'd have a certain level of opportunities if everything around the quarterback is great. But more times than not, we know that's not realistic. Sam Darnold, he may have just played on the best team that he'll ever play on, or at least start for an extended period of time. More times than not, you're quarterbacking a team that looks more like the 49ers look this season. And the reason why it just makes me a little uncomfortable paying a ton of money is because I just would have liked to see more than 6 wins. I would have liked to see more wins than the 2017 49ers when they didn't even really have a roster. I would have liked to see more wins than the 2020 team when you're missing George Kittle for an entire season. There was no CMC even thought of as a 49er. Deebo Samuel was hurt. There were a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball, Sherman and all those guys. So, okay, that team won 6 games. So if you're Brock Purdy and you're going to be expected to make a ton of money, well, if I put you in a great situation and you play great, awesome. But if you're in a less than ideal situation and my results are the same as Jimmy Garoppolo playing 6 games in the season and Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard over a course of a season, then why would I pay you a ton of money?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the tractor versus trailer discussion. Brock Purdy is not going to elevate those around him. And can you pay for a guy who doesn't elevate? I think the answer to that is yes, you can and should pay for a guy who maybe doesn't elevate, but is a good starting quarterback. It just puts a lot of pressure on you with the rest of the roster. So you cannot pay. You have to make sure that the contract is structured properly and you do not overpay for what you're getting. Like, it just makes it very, very difficult if you do that.
And it's like, even if the numbers come out and look okay, they clearly have overpaid so much that they have to let a lot of guys walk and cut players. And, they are planning to pay whatever that number is. It's enough to break down the team. It's such a bummer because this time last year with the 49ers coming off a Super Bowl appearance, I felt like they were made in the shade. Their cap situation was great. They had a bunch of players under contract for a long time. Right. They were ready to have like a true blue Super Bowl window. And it feels like they have cut that short. And I don't really understand what they are committing to. To me, I think that John Lynch is acting out of fear of the quarterback market. And I don't think that you need to be fearful of the quarterback market. I think you need to find it's like being on rafts in the river. You don't want to be in the river because gators are going to get you. But if your raft is sinking and you can jump to another raft, you got to do that.
Yeah, that has to be the move. I just don't think they have that move. I don't think that move is out there. I just wonder, when is a team going to let a guy like this go and just say, you know what? Yeah, we're probably going to be worse at quarterback. It may take us a second to find a new one, but we just can't pay this. It'll just ruin us. You know what I mean? I just wonder who's going to be the first team to kind of let one of these guys go. Was it Minnesota? Was that the actual answer? Is Minnesota said, fine, leave. We'll figure something else out. Like, we'll take Sam Darnold.
You had to fire a guy for that. So Rick Spielman, the answer to that was, when are you going to let him go? When you get fired and you don't no longer get to be the GM of him. But when Kwesi came in, they had basically the smoothest out. They immediately signed him to a contract that was going to be 2 years with a smooth out because he had an untenable cap hit and they had to deal with that contract. And then they did nothing else. They did no restructures. They did no extra stuff. They did nothing. They just let him walk. And they said, okay, we're going to do 2 years of you. And that was it. And they stuck to that plan. But they were that was inheriting a contract. It was a different thing. But I think, and I think it might honestly end up similar in San Francisco. Brock Purdy might be a 49er for longer than John Lynch is. And that feels insane to me to say about somebody that I have thought of as one of the best GMs in the league for years.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, they have a tumultuous future ahead, but I just want to see the next team that's going to do the Kirk Cousins. I know Kirk Cousins was older and coming off the injury, so that had a lot to do with it, but I wonder when a team's just going to let one of these guys go and go the Sam Darnold route or trade for a Kenny Pickett or, something like that, some sort of move adjacent.
If it's a good QB draft, then you're going to see people do that. Although it's a lot harder to be in this situation when you can't just be like, okay, and then we'll look and, we'll see who falls to the back half of round one and there'll be a good quarterback because there's 5 this year. Like, yeah, that's tough.
It's a precarious situation. But anyway, there were big rule changes in the NFL, the tush push tabled. Some other things moving around, the kickoff going to 35 on a touchback. More assisted replays from the booth, which I like. OT, both teams get the ball in regular season too. I'm lukewarm on that last one. Lukewarm, no pun intended. But with that being said, though, we had so much good real football conversation that we didn't get time to talk about the rules. So it might be something that we hit on tomorrow's show. And my guy Tony Wiggins in the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL probably hit on that as well. But that's going to do it for us today. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, my co-host, the Brain, Luke Braun. As I tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.